Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Spanish Football Podcast. I'm Phil Kitromilides. Sydney joins me fresh back from Seville. Hello, Sydney.
Hello, Phil. I'm not sure that fresh is quite the word, but yes, I am just back from Seville.
Fresh is not the word, is it?
No, it very much isn't.
No. But still, you're back and you're
back.
Raring to go, aren't you?
Yes, very much.
That's not the word either. But you're here begrudgingly recording.
I'm willing to go, just about willing.
Bedraggled and begrudging, and you're just about standing and you're willing to do a podcast with me. That's great.
It's lovely news, isn't it? Everyone's very happy.
This is what happened on the penultimate round of fixtures. 9 games took place at the same time on Sunday. It was really quite exciting. Certainly the first half of games. Second half, not so much. But the first half of matches were very, very exciting. These are the final results. It finished Athletic Club 1, Celta Vigo 1, Atletico Madrid beating Girona by a goal to nil, Elche beating Getafe by a goal to nil, Levante beating Mallorca 2-0, which means that Mallorca are now 95% to be relegated. 95% chance of being relegated. Rayo beat Villarreal 2-0. Magnificent Rayo. Oh, what a team. What a bunch of lads. Real Sociedad 3, Valencia 4. Incredible result at the Real Arena, which means Valencia could mathematically get into Europe on the final day of the season. Alaves beat Oviedo 1-0 at the Tartiere. Obviously, Alaves are safe. Yeah. Espanyol beat Osasuna 2-1 in Pamplona. Espanyol could also make it into Europe. Osasuna are not mathematically safe from relegation. Real Madrid beat Sevilla 1-0 and Barcelona beat Betis 3-1. Now, the La Liga season is very nearly over, obviously, but the content never stops. If you want full TSFP coverage of the World Cup, join us at patreon.com/TSFP. Sid and Al will both be there, and over the summer, as always, the Monday pod takes a bit of a break. We'll be putting exclusively on Patreon. Sign up from €4.75 a month. It's even cheaper if you get annual membership. It's going to be well worth your while. A summer of football. Come live it with TSFP. So, Sydney, the relegation battle. After those results, who's safe? Espanyol, Sevilla, Valencia, Alaves, they're all safe, Sid.
Yeah, they're all safe. We went into this final round of games knowing that 9 teams could still go down to join Oviedo, obviously. So 10 teams could go down because one was already down. We've now got 5. We've now got 5 left, and the teams that could still occupy those final.
You're very quiet, by the way. I can barely hear you.
Am I? Okay.
You're really quiet.
Why is that?
Really, really quiet.
There's no real reason why I should be quiet as far as I can see.
Okay, maybe it's just me. You keep going.
Maybe it's your headphones. Yeah, I will carry on.
It's my headphones. There we go.
It is it? Okay.
It was me. It was me. There we go. We'll leave this in, obviously. We'll leave this in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. People need to know how amateurish we are.
Yes.
So we're now in a situation where there are 2 relegation places to be avoided: Mallorca, Girona, Elche, Osasuna, and Levante. And we have, and can I get a woof from you, Philip?
Go on.
We have Girona against Elche on the final day. Which is really quite something. And actually, we've got, I think in the case of Girona and Mallorca, we've got 2 teams, and actually Osasuna as well. In fact, very definitely Osasuna as well. We've got 3 teams who probably thought they were safe. And this has been the nature of this relegation battle, hasn't it? That teams have started picking up huge amounts of points. Teams have started winning games, and it's still not enough to be safe. At the moment, the statistics you're talking about, now, obviously, the statistics are slightly skewed because what the statistics do is tell you the percentage chance of surviving running through all of the potential outcomes. But, of course, that treats every outcome as if it's equally possible. So, for example, it treats a Mallorca win against Oviedo as equally possible to a Mallorca draw against Oviedo and a Mallorca loss to Oviedo. So it's the number of outcomes. But to look at it from a number of outcomes point of view, Mallorca now 95% to go down, Girona 55%, Elche 35%, Osasuna 9%, and Levante 6%. So Levante can only go down in one scenario, which is if they lose, if Girona beat Elche, and if Osasuna get points from Getafe. And that would create a 3-way tie on 42 points, which would send them down. Because it's worth reminding our listeners of this. At the end of the season in Spain, head-to-head goal difference is what decides it. If more than one team is on the same number of points, then it doesn't go to normal goal difference. It goes to like a mini league between those teams. So imagine 4 teams are on the same number of points. It would effectively be, right, here's what it would be if it was a group made up of the results between those 4 teams. So that's why you get these weird combinations where you can sometimes be worse off if it's a 4-way tie than a 3-way tie or a 2-way tie, for example. So
is that better than just doing it on goal difference?
Well, it's more confusing, that's for sure.
I mean, what's wrong with just doing goal difference?
I don't know.
And if you level on goal difference, goals scored.
Yeah. Well, what it meant in part, of course, was that this meant that the Mallorca game at Levante was even bigger because they'd drawn earlier in the season. So it wasn't just that Levante took 3 points off Mallorca; it's that Levante took 3 points and a now unassailable head-to-head goal difference advantage over them. And obviously, that then gets taken into a mini league if there's a 2 or 3 or 4-way tie.
It's more exciting.
It is more exciting and it's more confusing and it's more complex. But in a way, it's fairly simple now. Mallorca, to survive, they need Girona to beat Elche. They need Osasuna. Sorry, Girona's beat Elche. They need Osasuna to lose, and they need who's the team I've been talking about? Who I've been talking about all the time. Also, and they need Levante to lose. Sorry, yes, of course. I was thinking
that's your definition of fairly simple, Sid. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it's going to be really complex. But the bottom line is that final game, Girona Elche, is absolutely enormous.
Girona at home. They've won 6 games at home all season. Elche have by far and away the worst away record in the division.
But a draw would be enough for Elche, and it's not enough for Girona.
Yeah, Girona needs to win 7 points away from home all season. Elche. So, but one more, and they're safe.
One more, and they're safe. And then the combinations, obviously, would because then obviously Elche could still survive if the other results go the right way for them.
You've been writing about Levante.
Yeah, I have been writing about Levante because I think what they've done is absolutely extraordinary. They are in a position now where they are out of the relegation for the first time since November. Now they were out of relegation. The eagle-eyed amongst our listeners will be saying, "Well, they were out of relegation midweek." Yes, they were, but they didn't finish the match day out of relegation. So they came out of relegation on Wednesday night and went back into it on Thursday night. They are now out of relegation at the end of a match day for the first time since November. They have been bottom. They've been 7 points adrift. When the current manager took over, they were 6 points adrift, and they actually won 2 of their first 4 games. But then a run of 4 defeats in a row in February put them that 7 points adrift, and you thought, that's it, it's done. That initial reaction has gone. But if you take a step back and you look at what Luis Castro has done, it's absolutely extraordinary. If you did a league table of just the games that he's been in charge, they are 3rd now after Villarreal beaten last night. 3rd in the whole of the league. This is a team with I think it's the 2nd smallest budget in the whole of the first division, if we take budget to mean the salary limit, because it's probably at least it's the most public figures that we have available that gives us an idea of the size of a club. When he took over, they'd only won 4 times, I think it was, all season. They've won now, what is it, 8 times now, I think. 8 since he took over, rather. And they'd only won twice all season. And it's 9 victories since then. That he's done an absolutely phenomenal job. 10 points before him, 32 points after him, making changes that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate. One of the things that he said, which I liked, he talked about the idea of how I don't talk to players. They know what they have to do. They know that it doesn't matter if the worst player in the team is the guy with the biggest salary. He's not playing. And I think that's, Etera Young, basically. Etera Young, who was this striker that everyone got very excited about and scored, I think it was 6 goals in the first 8 weeks or something, and hasn't scored. Well, scored 1 2 weeks ago, and it was his first goal in 8 months. He's had his place taken by Carlos Espilla, 20-year-old youth teamer, who scored 9 times in the last 12 games this season. Him and Tony Martinez at Alaves are the outstanding revelations of this final 3-4 months of the season. Just phenomenal. And it's just an incredible achievement. And what I loved about this, and I wrote about this today because I really love this, is I don't know if you heard the president of Levante talking last night.
No.
He was asked about Luis Castro. He said, well, when they suggested Luis Castro to me, I hadn't heard of him. I'd heard of a Luis Castro, but it wasn't this one.
Yes.
So I'll be honest with you. I went looking up the other Luis Castro today to find out what his backstory was, to see who you could have won. The other Luis Castro is coach of Gremio at the moment. And has a phenomenal backstory, by the way. He had a terrible illness when he was a kid, was told he was going to die. Well, probably he wasn't told. His parents were told he was going to die. Was then told he would never, ever do any physical activity again for the rest of his life. Built a football career in the lower levels of the Portuguese league, became a coach, and he's the one that the president of Levante thought they'd got. And he wasn't the one that the president of Levante thought they got, but he got the right one because Luis Castro has been phenomenal.
Certainly has, and they are on the verge of one of the most unlikely survival in recent years.
It really is. It really is. And they are. I mean, they're not yet there yet. And we've seen enough weird shit this season to not, well, let's take a bit of advice from Mr. Wolf, shall we, out of Pulp Fiction? Not to go getting too excited just yet.
Don't get too excited just yet, but you've got excited enough to write about them today.
Yeah, well, because I thought it was the most interesting of all of the outcomes of that penultimate week of the season. As you said, the final day we had 3 changes in the relegation zone, but they were all in the first half. So we had 3 different bottom threes, but they were all in the first half. And actually, the day wasn't as dramatic as I thought it was going to be. Lots of 1-0s, lots of results that weren't then turned around again. Bear in mind that Levante come into this with 2 3-2s in a row. And you think, oh, here we go. This is drama as well. But actually, it was a relatively, touch wood and all that, comfortable win for them against Mallorca, who have completely blown this.
They really have, haven't they? They're going to go down with one of the top scorers in the division, old Vedat, Marichis. How many goals has he got?
22.
22? And they're going down.
And, if you go back a month, this is a team that had won 3 out of 4, that had then won 4 out of 6, and basically thought they were safe. They beat Real Madrid, and at that point you think, here we go, it's all right. They beat Real Madrid, then they beat Rayo pretty heavily. They got a draw with Mallorca, and then they beat Girona, and you think, that's it, they've done it. And these last 2 games, and I think part of the problem is precisely the fact that they thought they'd done it. A defeat against Getafe, and this defeat against Mallorca, and against Levante, and they now need a miracle.
It's a pretty big miracle, yeah. I don't think Martin Demichelis is going to be able to do it.
I mean, for what it's worth, it's not completely implausible, because if you think about it, they need Girona to beat Elche. You would say that probably will happen. They need to beat Oviedo. You think that probably will happen. You need Osasuna. Which way around was it? Osasuna to lose their game. That could happen. They're away at Getafe, and they need Levante not to win.
I mean, those are 4 different scenarios. Yeah, I mean that is.
Yeah, but all of them are plausible. So if you were a betting man, you might go for all of them.
If you're a betting man, you want to do the least number of games in your accumulator makes it more likely.
The 4, and the nature of the accumulator, exactly. The very nature of an accumulator is that the odds widen because there are too many results being multiplied by each other.
Who do you think is going to go down then, Sid?
I think going down are Real Oviedo, obviously. I think
big call.
Yeah, very big call. That. Do you know what? I think Osasuna and Mallorca are going with them.
Wow. Osasuna, they've just collapsed as well, haven't they? I mean, we were talking about that.
That said. No, hang on. Osasuna are not going with them. Do you know why? Because the combinations mean that, I'm just looking at it now. Hang on. Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous, isn't it? Because I'm looking at it now and still can't quite work it out. Because I'm assuming that Girona are going to beat Elche. And if that happens, Elche have 42 points, so they can't catch Osasuna.
Yeah, this has been one of the sort of most...
mathematically shambolic.
I'd say all over the place segments we've ever done on the podcast, to be honest. I'm not sure how much insight we've provided.
If you're confused, you're sort of supposed to be. That's the point of this.
Yeah. So who do you think is going down?
I don't know. What did I just say? So I'm going, okay, it's Elche, Mallorca, Real Oviedo.
Elche, Mallorca. Okay. All right. Let's see what happens. That sounds plausible. I'm happy enough. We'll do a full round of predictions on our preview pod on Friday, when hopefully
do you know what? When we do that, maybe we'll actually try and work out what that actually means.
Yeah, I mean, no guarantee, but we'd like to think right. Like to think that we could get it right. Okay. There is plenty of other things for us to discuss. Lots has happened, not just about the relegation battle. That was the most interesting thing about the final day. there were plenty of emotional goodbyes,
Yeah.
long, slightly drawn out goodbyes. I was at the Metropolitano for Griezmann's.
Did you have to commentate the whole
homage.
thing? Is that why it feels very long drawn out? Were you there for quite a long time?
Yeah. Nobody. It was just before we went on air. They were like, "Oh yeah, there's going to be an hour homage to Griezmann afterwards,
An hour?
You've got to stick around and commentate
Was it really
that
an
as
hour?
well."
Wow.
Yeah, it was. So it felt. I'll tell you one thing though. Nobody left.
No, I did notice that in the footage. It was quite nice, It was very nice, actually, I thought.
It was nice, It was nice. And it was nicely done. And they had loads of legendary figures there. And Griezmann was visibly moved, obviously. He said, sorry for leaving. Sorry for going to Barcelona when I did. I was young and I made a mistake. And me and Al were there. I was like, you weren't that young. I was going to
say, I was just thinking that when you said he was young. I mean, all footballers are young, I suppose. But yeah, in footballer terms, he absolutely wasn't young. He was a decade into his career.
Yeah, you weren't that young, but still, I think they've forgiven him. I mean, they've definitely forgiven him. Forgiven him, and he got a very, very fitting send off. He also produced an assist, by the way, in the game, which was his 100th assist for Atletico Madrid. So nice, and he was everybody was desperate for him to score. It was so funny. It was almost like a charity match.
Who is it that really can score and just pulls it back to him insteed?
Well, that happened a few times, but Almada was one of them.
Almada, I think, is the one I'm thinking of, and it's such a clear shooting opportunity. He's like, no, I'm going to give it to that guy.
Yeah. That happened a few times. He didn't manage to score, but he did pop up with an assist, which is perhaps a fitting way for him to bow out in front of the Metropolitano crowd. I mean, we've spoken a lot about Griezmann over the years. There's not an enormous amount for us to add, but there was sort of genuine, so much warmth and affection towards him from everybody there in terms of his former teammates. Everybody seems to love Antoine Griezmann, and I know some people are pretty close to him, and he has a sort of a childlike enthusiasm and affection.
That's the word, isn't it? Yeah. It's the childishness of him, which occasionally is problematic, I think.
Yes.
But always means that even those people who get frustrated with him always know that there's no malice whatsoever in what he does. That there can be frustration from him. There can be moments when he gets upset. There can be moments when he doesn't feel right. But then when the joy comes and it's really, really genuine. And I think that was summed up, wasn't it? It was Simeone, wasn't it? One of the lines that he said it's very difficult for everyone to love you, for everyone to love anyone, for anyone to be loved by everybody. He said, but you are loved by everybody.
Yeah, that was nice. There was also a homage to Bobby Lewandowski, who is leaving Barcelona after.
Is he going to the NYPD? He's left Chicago.
After 4 years on the beat in Barca, which has brought 119 goals and 3 league titles, he's leaving. And the word legend has been thrown about quite a lot in terms of Lewandowski, with some people suggesting, no, he's not really a Barca legend, and other people suggesting he absolutely is a Barca legend. I'll tell you what he is, Sid. He's been a bloody amazing signing in terms of like instant delivering. He's come in and just instantly delivered the bag full of goals that Barcelona needed and wanted and thought they were getting from him. Obviously, wasn't cheap in terms of wages, but he's completely delivered. And you can't argue with the numbers and the titles that he's been heavily involved in.
I was looking at the other day. I think he's won 15 league titles in his career, if you include his very first one, which I think
we're not talking about Germany.
Actually, I think we can talk about Germany, because remember that two of the titles he won in Germany were with Dortmund. So this isn't just him scooping them up with Bayern, but what I mean is that this tells you something about the relentlessness of him. Now, for those of our listeners who don't know this, I've been banging on about him being the Polish Ian Rush for years, and I'm gonna tell you why now. Because I'm friends with someone who follows Polish football, who was talking about him in Poland before he went to Germany. And at that stage, he was quite tall and thin and had an Ian Rush moustache. And for years, I was talking about this guy's the Polish Ian Rush. I'd only ever seen him play a couple of times, but my mate was like, oh, he's so good. And then he went to Germany and absolutely tore it up. And it's the relentlessness of it. It's the seriousness. And you had Hansi Flick, didn't you, say that he, essentially say he's the most professional person I've ever worked with. And Lewandowski, you can question maybe whether it was the right style for Barcelona over the last year or so, whether he had the dynamism, the movement and all the rest of it. And obviously we know what age he's at, and there's a reason why he's not continuing, which is partly that his salary is very high, but also that the contribution doesn't match the size of that salary. But you're absolutely right. if ever there was a player that was basically guaranteed, this guy will give you the goals, this guy will win league titles, Lewandowski's fulfilled that entirely.
He certainly has. Certainly has. And remember, he came at a very difficult period for Barcelona
He certainly did as well. Yeah,
really
absolutely.
difficult. And he's helped smooth things over, certainly on the pitch. So Barbie Lou bowing out at the Camp Nou. Oscar Trejo bowing out in Vallecas as well. Starting for Rayo and providing an assist in their 2-0 win over Villarreal. There was a beautiful tifo from the crowd as well, and another extraordinarily legendary figure with Rayo, and just an unbelievably good guy. Just a good guy.
I'm glad you said that, because I think the thing about Oscar Trejo is, I mean, I use this example.
He was a baller, by the way. He was a hell of a player.
A fantastic footballer, and I think it's important that we don't forget that. But I think it goes beyond that, and I think this is summed up in what Inigo Perez, the coach, who's very, very, very fond of him, what he said post game. He said one of the things about Oscar is, if you go around this team and the staff and the people at the club and you ask them for their first memory of Oscar, he says guaranteed it will be Oscar helping them out in some way. It will be him offering them something, or clarifying something for them, or resolving a problem for them, or fixing something for them, and looking after them. And I think it's that idea of him being the person that looks after everyone that's really, really important. And you're right. It's important that we don't forget the footballer part of it, but it's that sense of decency and that sense of, you are here for the right people and for the right reasons. And that's why, and this is why the thing I was just about to say, the example I always come back to, and apologies if you've heard me say it before, but I think it's the best way of putting it, is to say that Oscar Trejo once gave up the captaincy of Rayo Vallecano, and it was the most captainy thing he could have ever done. And he did that as a gesture of saying, right, solidarity demands that I can't wear this armband anymore because of the way the club is treating not teammates, members of staff, because of the way this is being run. And out of solidarity, I have to back those people. This is someone who changed the name on the back of his shirt to pay homage to the guy that had run the youth academy for, what was it, 25 years or 30 years or whatever it was. Apologies, I should know the actual number. And I think that is, for me, the definition of Oscar Trejo, apart from the fact he's a great footballer, is that he played that role. I suppose, you know what you could call it, almost as a kind of a trades union leader. You know, this was the guy that looked after everybody. And I think it's been really quite important in their recent success, even when he hasn't been playing.
Love that guy. Love Trejo so much. But yeah, let's see what the future holds for him and for Bobby Lou and for Tony G in their future endeavours. Sid, so much has happened. Obviously, you went to Sevilla. Seville lost. To
be honest, there's not that much to say about Sevilla.
No,
they lost, but they survived anyway. I'll give you one little glimpse, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
And I hadn't properly appreciated this, and I found him and asked him after the game. At full time in the Seville game, the players are on the pitch, kind of clapping the fans, and Cesar Azpilicueta is sitting on the bench, looking at a phone, and really angry, sort of throwing his hands up in the air. Oh bloody hell! Oh God! And at one point, Luis Garcia, the manager, comes over and says something to him, and someone is alongside him, and someone from the backroom staff is alongside him. The two of them are there for a while, and he's really tense. Cesar Azpilicueta, and then eventually, whatever he's watching on the phone, a game ends on the phone, and he gets up and he joins the other teammates and applauding the fans, and of course they're safe. Now, I hadn't quite appreciated that Sevilla had finished slightly before the other games, or at least before games that matter. As far as I was concerned, Sevilla just were safe, and so I thought to myself, wow, this is the guy from Pamplona who was brought up at Osasuna. Presumably he's furious because he's seeing the shit that Osasuna have got themselves into. And he said afterwards, he said, no. He said, we weren't safe. Sevilla weren't safe. I said, yeah, you were. I mean, it would. And he said, in this season in which all sorts of weird shit happened, we were not safe yet. I said, but it would have taken about four incredible rebounds in the last 2 minutes for you to not be safe. He said, we weren't safe. And just watching that kind of little vignette, if you like, of tension and vulnerability, I thought was a great indication. And then talking to someone at Sevilla afterwards, and I think we've discussed this before, but I think it's just worth reminding ourselves of this. And someone who works for Sevilla, and just about the impact that relegation would have had on people who work at the club, and the number of jobs that would have been lost. And I think when you think about that, and it's probably a good idea that footballers don't think about that, because the amount of pressure that's on their shoulders is pretty big anyway. But you think about that, and you think about the implications of relegation, it's huge.
Okay, so away from that, in terms of Real Madrid, we've had the here we go, Jose Mourinho to Real Madrid, which I have to say, I was looking to see if there was any kind of reaction to that in the Spanish media, and there's zero reaction to that because everybody kind of knows it's happening anyway.
Yeah, because two things. First of all, everyone knows it's happening anyway, and the here we go in this particular case, as you say, was kind of really just a picking up of what's been said over the weekend. Well, I say it was really, I don't know that, to be fair. I wouldn't claim that there isn't something else behind it. But essentially what was being said was, it's done. They just need to sign off all the documents. And to be honest, I did think to myself, well, that means it's not done, doesn't it? I mean, you can agree, but until the documents are signed, we kind of knew we were in a position where everyone said, yeah, okay, let's get this done. But let's get this done is not the same as it is now done. But yeah, we all think it's happening. Mourinho makes me laugh sometimes. Mourinho goes, "Oh, I'm 99.9% certain to stay at Benfica," and literally 6 minutes later says, "Oh, well, who knows what'll happen? I might be going to Real Madrid, and we'll have conversations about that on Monday." It's like, I love this idea that what happens. It sometimes feels like what Mourinho does is he tells the story after the story's ended. If you see what I mean. So right, this is done. I'm now going to start telling you what might happen in the future. No, because you know what's going to happen in the future, but you're just kind of creating this little story that leads us to the if you like, to the final line. I think we're all looking, aren't we, at the end of the Spanish season and the end of the electoral process at Real Madrid, which almost certainly won't be an electoral process because I don't think anyone's going to stand against Florentino Perez, which would mean that this would probably happen on the 27th of May, officially.
We might still have an election.
Yeah, we might, but I don't think it's very likely.
No? Okay.
And I think actually
Enrique Riquelme is going to stand.
Well, let's see what happens. I'd be fascinated to see that, actually. If nothing else, because it would force at least some debate about some of the things that have happened. And so far, we've not really had that.
Other news stories that have come out today, a couple of big ones. Carvajal's leaving Real Madrid.
Yeah, I think we knew that. I think we knew that was coming, but it's... but it still has quite an impact when it's actually said. By the way, speaking of goodbyes, we should very briefly mention Ernesto Valverde as well. We were talking about the homages earlier on, just so that people know we haven't forgotten about Ernesto, who is the greatest thing, the greatest manager probably that Athletic have ever had. Certainly the best photographer of all the managers that Athletic have ever had. Carvajal going is, I mean, I think we knew it. I think it's ended a bit nastily, to be honest. But I trust that the farewell will kind of gloss over some of this slightly fractured nature of the final couple of months. And in the end, everyone will forget about that because, of course, this is the guy that has the most European Cups in history.
Joint.
Yes, joint. Yes, but yes, he does, yeah.
And Fermin's out of the World Cup, Sid.
Yeah, I think that's massive.
It is, isn't it? It really is.
I think he's potentially been the I think over the last 3 or 4 months, he's been the best midfielder in Spain. Better even than Pedri, because Pedri's not been fully fit. So the last 3 or 4 months, maybe 3 or 4 is pushing it. Last 2 or 3. I think he's been really, really important. I think his contribution in terms of numbers is even bigger than his contribution in terms of the way that he plays. I think he would have played a part with Spain. I agree with you that I think he wouldn't have started, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I'm not 100% sure, particularly with the injury doubts about Lamine and Nico, whether he might not have played as a false wide player, coming inside and moving into that sort of those inside areas around the number 10 position. And I think it's very, very bad news indeed for Spain, that.
It is. It certainly is.
And for him, obviously.
Before we go, congratulations to Racing Santander. They're back in the Primera for the first time in TSFP history.
That is, I mean, we are like, you know how it is with the Premier League where people tell you that, this is the only time in history, but actually history didn't begin when you began. We're like that. History began when we began.
Yes.
So Racing are making their debut in the first division next season.
Yeah. Great to have them back. Historic club. I was going to say great fan base. It is a great fan base. It's sort of what happened to Oviedo.
Yes,
I think that
quite similar. Yeah.
It's like galvanized the young people, their success when they went down to the third tier. There were, some people lost interest, but there was obviously a hardcore that was always supporting. And now you go to Santander and Cantabria and you see lots of Racing shirts and everybody's bought into the idea and now they're back and let's see what happens. So great to have a big traditional historic club back in the top flight of Spanish football. Elsewhere, Depor a second, they beat Andorra 2-1, and then Almeria a third. 3 points behind Depor after they were beaten 2-1 at home by Las Palmas. And at the bottom, Zaragoza are in huge trouble. They're bottom of the table, 5 points from safety with 2 games left. Mamma mia.
Yeah, in fact, Caleb Barre, their midfielder, at the end of the game at the weekend, he said to him, you've got the tiniest chance now. And he said, this was our last bullet and we've wasted it.
Yeah. Oh dear, oh dear. Right, we're going to leave it there, guys. Thanks very much for joining us for today's edition of TSFP. We're going to be over at patreon.com/TSFP for the rest of the week. Going to be loads of content on there, Q&A podcast, bonus podcast, and the newsletter's already up there for patrons as well. The TSFP diary for patrons is a really good one from last week. It's Sid going to the Bernabeu as an Oviedo fan. So make sure you listen to that, because that's a particularly good addition to the TSFP diary collection. Like I said, we'll be back on Friday for free everywhere, looking ahead to the final round of fixtures in La Liga EA Sports. So make sure you join us then. Adios, amigos.
Cheerio.